Acceptance is something that is hard to gain. Everyone is born different and grow to become different. There is nothing wrong with different. The problem comes from society's definition of different. To society, different is bad. It's weird. Within society, if you don't act normal, then you will be looked down upon and will be shunned. In reality, there's no such thing as normal. We are all different and like different things. So normal to you isn't normal to someone else. Boys Run the Riot showcases how society reacts to those who are different and who act out. The people who are just trying to be themselves but can't be accepted for who they are. I'm sure there was a time in everyone's life where we got bullied for liking a certain thing, dressing a certain way, wearing something that other people saw as lame or stupid. It could be so simple as it being a pair of sneakers. From my personal experience, things like that happened on daily occurrences. They happen every day. Somebody would get bullied for the shoes they wear if they weren't, the same brand of shoes that somebody else was wearing. They have a different haircut, they like different music. But Boys Runs the Riot takes it a step further with the representation that it gives to the LGBTQ plus community. And that's something that's very powerful within itself, because for me, as I got older, I started to see more of the discrimination that happens to the people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, especially in school. It's like, now that I think back on it, how people treated those people who were labeled as that. At the time when you're a kid, you don't think about that, and as you get older, you look back on it and you're like, wow, like they really got treated differently and got treated in unfair ways by other people because those people thought it was weird. And for Boys Run the Riot, the concept that the brand that they made for the brand themselves, that Ryu and Jin made for the brand, the concept was fighting against unfair barriers in life. And Jin goes on to say that everyone faces all different kinds of prejudice and lives within their limitations, but that can be changed, and that's what I'd like to think. People live their lives scared to be who they are because of the way society treats people who are different. But Ryu and Jin wanted to change that with fashion, the way they met, because Ryu dressed a certain way. People saw Ryu as a girl even though they were a boy. And society doesn't want Ryu to dress like a boy, because to them, in their perception, is like, oh, that's a girl, not a boy. And Jin is someone who doesn't want to live within the means that society is like trying to encapsulate him in. Jin doesn't want that standard way of living like his father is trying to make him do, and how society tries to make you do too, because society says like, oh, like go to school, go to college, get a job, get a retirement plan, retire when you're like 60, like that typical way of living, when there's so much more to life than just working that 9-to-5 corporate office job. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's people that want more than that, and Jin was one of those people who wanted more than that, but nobody understood because his dreams and ambitions were too much for people to understand, for people his age to understand, because again, those people are just going by like what society is trying to tell them to do, what their parents are trying to tell them to do, that safe route of just going to school and getting a good job. And just to kind of give examples, we also see that in Blue Period, because Blue Period is an art series. They do art. Artists don't make a lot of money, or so they say, and as an artist, you do it because you love it, not because you're gonna make like $1 million off of it. That's why artists do what they do, because they love drawing or they love doing their form of art. So again, society has these, this way of thinking and these misconceptions about certain things, and it leads them to be like, oh, you're stupid, or like you're weird because you're doing this instead of doing what everyone else is doing. And that is far from the case. We get to see different perspectives from each character in the series, or from each of the main characters within the series. You know, Ryu is a boy born with the body of a girl. Jin doesn't want society or his father's standard way of living. Itsuka wanted to take pictures, but everyone thought that it was stupid, and even his father gave up on wanting to become a photographer because everyone thought it was stupid. But what his father didn't understand is that it's not about what other people think is stupid. It's about what you like to do. And that's where Itsuka didn't take after his father, because Itsuka met other people like him. He met Ryu, he met Jin, they brought him into the brand and wanted him. So he found a place to go to be able to share those ideas and share his love for photography with those people who also shared their love for what they wanted to do with him. And if you find people like that, then you're able to be yourself, you're able to keep going. Rather than if you don't find people like that who support what you do, who think it's awesome for what you like and accept you for you, then it's going to be harder for you as a person to be able to accept what you like. And that's probably what happened to his father. Obviously, they don't touch on a lot of what happens with his father and why his father quit, but that was just how it was. And then we get to see a lot from Tsubasa, or the YouTuber that they met, who goes by the name Wing. They were also troubled too because of the way their persona on YouTube became separate from who they really were on the inside. And they finally found out who they really were by the end of the series, when they discovered that, you know, the person who they thought they were, or who they started out as before the YouTube stuff started, may not be who they are now. And even Tsubasa's cousin was saying like, hey, like, you might be gender fluid, because of what happens in the series, that Tsubasa gets caught sleeping with a female, and like everyone assumed that they were gay because of how they were. Like, they were, you know, a male doing makeup and doing all this feminine stuff, and like their persona encapsulated the fact that like they were gay. But that was just the thing, because what happened with Tsubasa is that they took that idea and who they were, and they used it on YouTube to gain the following of people like them. They used that to bring people in, to be like, hey, it's okay to be like this, like I'm like this, like I want you to be like this, which it's a good message, but it was for the wrong reason and the wrong way. And then the people who they worked with the channel and everything were taking advantage of that and kept making them go in that direction. And so they slipped up once and it became such a big deal. But what some people don't realize is that, like, yeah, you can be one thing at the start and like you can figure something out, but that doesn't mean that you have everything figured out within yourself, and like you understand everything about yourself, because you grow and you change. And that's what happened to Tsubasa. They may have thought that like they were one way when they were younger, or like when they first started this whole YouTube journey, but they let that persona take over them, and it made them think that that's who they really were and truly were. But in reality, they grew and they found out something different about themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that, because you're not always going to understand who you are. And as time goes on, and as you experience life and experience different things, you're going to figure out different things about yourself, and sometimes things are going to change, and that's okay. It's not like, it doesn't contradict who you are, it's just you changed as a person. And I feel like that's what a lot of people think too, is that, oh, you said this, but like now you're not saying that you're this now. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you're a liar. That's not who you are. Stop trying to be something you're not. That's not the case. We all figure things out as we get older. Like when we're young, we act one way, and then, you know, like when you're in elementary school, you act one way. When you're in middle school, you change. You start realizing more, you change again. High school, you change again. When you graduate high school, you change again. It's a maturing process, and it's a process that you will continue to grow into yourself and the most authentic version of yourself as you continue to get older and experience life and meet different people and put yourself in different settings. And that's what, for me, that's what I got out of Tsubasa's like story and character, is that you're always going to keep changing. and it's okay to change. Like, you don't have to stay one way for like the convenience of other people, because at that point, like, you're just trying to you're trying to be like a convenience to other people. Like, oh, like, yeah, I'm like this, and I've always been like this my whole entire life, and I'm gonna stay like this, just so that you can, quote unquote, understand. Like, if someone doesn't understand who you are, it doesn't matter. If you understand who you are and you're comfortable with who you are, like, that's what's important. And that's what I got from again, Tsubasa story, and like similar to what I got from, like, you know, following Ryu from like from, you know, volume 1 to volume 4. That's what I got to, is that, you know, fighting to just be yourself. And it should never be that hard to be yourself. And it's sad that it's like that, because, you know, it's like that in real life too. It's not just a story. And I think it's such a great thing that we get to see these struggles, and that it's so, like, it's not watered down in a sense to try to make it like a little bit more like kid friendly and stuff like that. Like, this is real stuff, and like the people and how they act in the story, this is really what happens, and it really opens eyes. And I'm really happy that I got the chance to read this, because I know it came out a couple years ago, so I can only imagine like the impact that it had on the community, like LGBTQ plus community, like, you know, and just the community of people who can relate to it, you know, who have been bullied their whole life because of the things that they like, and them trying to be themselves. And maybe it'll reach people who are afraid to be themselves. Like, Ichigo was afraid to be himself at first and was friends with people he didn't really even like. But then once he met Ryu and Jin, who were pretty much being shunned by the school because they were acting out, trying to be themselves, or quote unquote acting out, because that's what they'll label you as. Like, you're acting out, you're being rebellious when you're trying to be yourself. And once he found them, he was like, oh, they're like me. And if they accept me, then I'm just going to be myself because I have people who accept me. And, you know, you can dive in really deep to these characters, because, you know, you have Ryo, that, you know, a transgender boy, lived his life tormented by the fact that they were born in the body of a female, and they can't be themselves because society forces him to live as a girl, and if he doesn't do that, then he's seen as a problem. He can't be himself at school or at home. But after meeting Jin, he started to change, and, you know, he started to be more open about it, and he ended up coming forward to his family, and his family ended up accepting it. Even though they didn't want to accept it at first, they accepted it. And then, you know, his father was the same way. Like, his father told him, people look at you differently depending on which company you work for or what your job is. Even though that may be true, who's to say that the way those people think is true? That's just their opinion. It's not about what they think, but your own happiness. And that's why Jin chose the path that he chose. And you can see by the end of the series that his father was happy that his son was making progress in what he was doing, because he spent so much time fighting with Jin to just take this one path. And then he was like, wow, like, maybe I was a little wrong. Like, maybe I should have listened to Jin and let him do what he's doing now. Because think about it, like, Jin got held back a year, or got held back how many years in school, and that's probably, a lot of it has to do, probably his mother died, I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, and all the time fighting with his father about just doing what he wanted to do with his life. And so if you eliminate all the fighting that him and his father probably did, he probably wouldn't have gotten left back. He would have been motivated to go to school and to just, you know, do his fashion thing, like, on the side and everything. So that's another thing to kind of think about. This series definitely does have an extremely impactful message, and, you know, it was very nice to see, like, the target audience that it was going for, because I feel like now there's starting to be a lot more representation within manga and anime and stuff like that, with that really showcase the LGBTQ+, which is very important and a very good thing to see. And it's nice to see, because I feel like it's really, really, really starting to be more accepted upon, and it should, you know, like, being in school and stuff like that, and having to see these people be treated a certain way, and people talk about them the way that they did, it's just, it shouldn't happen. And you know, there's always gonna be people like that, but like, hopefully with more representation in the media like this, it's able to move forward in the direction that it needs to move forward in, to the point where like we're not holding people back from being themselves, and we can allow these people to fit into society and fit in at school and not have to go through the hell that they go through. And I'm sure this is really like, and this came out like a couple years ago too, so, but like I'm sure like the impact that it had at the time, and even the impact that it has now, and the impact that it's going to have is very, very important. And there's a lot of series like this. I just probably haven't read them all, you know, but it's good. There needs to be more of that, because we need people to just realize that, like, hey, like, this is okay, like, stop treating like it's not. And I love series like this that really dives into this type of stuff, because there was another series that I read. It was called damn, I forgot what it was called. I think it was I See the Sunspot, or like, it was something like that. I don't remember, but it was about these two guys, and they were friends, but they liked each other and stuff like that, and they ended up dating. And one of them had a hearing disability where like he was borderline like almost deaf, I think. And the series really goes in deep with hearing disabilities, and there's like a lot of people in the series with hearing disabilities, and you know, they go over like sign language and all, and like the sign language system and stuff like that. And like, I love reading series like that because it's giving a platform, and it's putting out like that positive message to people with disabilities and stuff like that. And I think that that's just really important too, to really give people with disabilities like that voice and that representation in media, you know, because like a lot of media just like tries to make it seem like everything like perfect and like great, and like you have to be perfect. And the reality of it is like none of us are perfect, and there's a lot of us that are like dealing with stuff and like have conditions or medical disabilities and stuff like that, and like treated like you're just not normal, and that's just not the case. And I'm glad to see a story like Boys Run the Riot, where like we can showcase like, hey, like this is okay. And it's really cool too, because there's different perspectives. There's Rio's perspective with dealing with the fact of being transgender. There's Jin's perspective of not wanting to do what society is telling him to do. Itsuka's perspective of being bullied for liking something and wanting to be a photographer even if it doesn't make you a lot of money. And you know, Tsubasa's perspective of trying to figure out who they truly are on the inside, similar to Ryu, but also very different paths that they're walking down. And even for someone like me, like reading this and going through this, it really showed me, and I really connected with it, because you know, I used to get bullied for a lot of things. I used to get bullied in like middle school for liking anime, for middle school and high school for liking J-rock and K-pop and like different language to music, and people thought it was weird and stuff like that. For the way I dressed, because I always dressed differently, for my goals and ambitions in life, because they were always different, and people thought that like, oh, you never make it and blah blah blah. And you know, a lot of people just trying to throw their insecurities on me because I was trying to have the strength to be myself, but they couldn't. And that's all what it comes down to, is that those people just like, they don't have the courage to really be themselves, and they're really insecure, and it's unfortunate, but like they try to drag other people down. But that's kind of just my personal experience. Like just like seeing this and reading this makes me think back to, you know, the days where like I had to deal with that, even if it wasn't as like, you know, serious as like some of the stuff that like Ryu had to go through and stuff like that. It's still something, and it's like, yeah, like I somewhat understand and like relate to that, because like, you know, I used to get harassed all the time too for everything, especially since like I'm Hispanic too, I'm Puerto Rican, and so like people, you know, they see the color of your skin, and they see you, and they just randomly just start throwing slurs at you and calling you like an immigrant and like all these different things, because they don't understand, they're just dumb, and they thought that was funny. So that's like my personal kind of experience within, like, you know, reflection on the whole entire thing. But yeah, this series was a very, very good read for 4 volumes. It's a short series, but very good, and I really enjoyed it. If I had to rate it, I'd probably would give it like an 8.5. 8.5. It was very, very, very good. Very, 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 very good read. I think on a good day, maybe I'd even give it a 9. You know, like, I think I did give it a 9 when I finished it, but like I had to rethink and reevaluate because like I feel like that was maybe a little too high. But I think it's like an 8.5. I think it's a very good read. It's a very good read. I think I'm just gonna give it a solid 8. I'm not gonna wait. I'm gonna go 8. 100% 8. It's a very good read. If you haven't checked it out, actually, I can't even say that. I was gonna say, like, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. But like I did, there was a lot of spoilers in this video, so like, if you're watching this and you didn't watch it, I apologize. But like, I would assume you did you did read it if you're watching this video. But anyways, that is all I have for this video. I'm sorry for the long rant. This was very much like a rant / analysis kind of video. Not really a review, because I didn't really review a lot of like what happened during it. It was more or less just trying to, you know, talk about the message and how it relates to real life and stuff like that. If you didn't really get the gist of that, but anyways, that's all I have for this video. And you know, obviously, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, hit the subscribe button down below, turn the noties on for notification and alerts for new videos, and drop a comment on an anime you want me to do, or a manga you want me to read, anime you want me to watch, a certain topic you want me to do. Any recommendation is very helpful to figure out what to do for future videos and stuff like that. Or even for my cosplay stuff, if you want to see me cosplay a certain character, comment down below. And also comment down below if you can relate to any of this stuff from this series, if you read this series, and you can relate to it, like what your story is, you know. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.